Welcome to the show, Alicia. How are you?
I'm struggling with a cold, but other than that, really good. Having a really good day, very productive. So
Oh,
good to be here, Tim.
okay. So you have given me a total of 11 books to talk about, two of which are your own. So
Yes,
shall we start off with the first book, which is one of your books?
it is. Well, it's Clear Your Head Trash. I've got a copy right here.
Yes. So
And
hold the book up a bit more so people can see
well,
it.
here we go.
Yeah.
See, not that you can read it in an evening, I would imagine. And
Yeah.
it's a how-to book.
Yeah.
So I've developed a method for clearing your head trash, believe it or not. Hence the name of the book. So if you want to learn how to do it, there's a DIY method that enables you to do that. And the book just basically shows you how, and enables you to pick a thing that you want to get rid of, a fear, an anxiety, a stress, a trigger, whatever it is. And then you can clear it in about 20 minutes
Okay.
and
So
repeat.
is it full of techniques about how to do that, or is it kind of broader discussion, or what?
Well, there's a little bit at the beginning that helps you to kind of unpack it, because the thing about head trash is it often is a big bundle of mess, like in there.
Yeah.
So it's not immediately obvious what you need to get rid of, because you just look at it and think, whoa, what's going on
Yeah.
in here? And so there's the beginning of the book is really helping you to start looking at what's going on, your thoughts, your fears, your anxieties in a new way, so that you can spot what it is that you can sort of pull out and get rid of. So there's a little bit, so I show, talk through how you can go about doing that and some easy exercises for you to do that. And then there's the method itself, which is a very simple 5-step method. So that doesn't take long at all. I mean, that's like on one page pretty much. Obviously, I explain each step in a little bit of detail so that people can follow along and do the work at home. And then I go back and like, okay, well, dig more into helping you to really uncover what your head trash is, because that's the big stumbling block I found, especially my clients, is that they're like, well, I don't know what to clear. So helping people to figure that bit out is the important bit, because once you've figured out what you want to clear, it literally is just a 20-minute, 30-minute process. So, but pinpointing that is sometimes where the challenge lies. So that's why it's quite a thin book, because there's no point getting bogged down in that. I've got a podcast that people can listen to where I talk a lot about, again, identifying all of that. So the book is really just this book that's meant to be designed to sort of accompany you on that healing journey. And a lot of my clients, they go and buy the book and they come into sessions and they just got those little post-its down the side and all those
Mhm.
notes and scribbles they've been doing. It's this dog-eared and it's all, being used. So yeah, so it's a very practical book in that sense. And you can get rid of some really meaty mental health stuff with the technique. It's not lightweight at all. So yeah, that's what that book's about.
Okay. And what are some examples of things that people have managed to clear by using what you say are the biggest head
Oh,
trash items?
depression,
Yeah.
anxiety, trauma. I developed this method as a result of my own
Yeah.
journey and a need that I had to get rid of my own fears and anxieties. So when I fell pregnant, I realized I had tocophobia, which is the fear of pregnancy and birth that no
Mhm.
one's heard of, right? And yet it affects over
Yeah.
50% of women. And so while I was pregnant, absolutely losing it and thinking, how am I going to get through this? There's no way out of this because there's a due date and that ain't moving. That I this is It was in the thick of that I developed this method. And so I went on to share that, and it's in the method originally showed up in my other book, which we're going to talk about later. And I went on to share on my podcast, the Fear Free Childbirth podcast. And so I have a lot of people that have used that book and this one to help them to self-heal things like tocophobia, which is a severe anxiety disorder, or anxiety or depression. And they just do that on their own by following the book or my online resources. So yeah, when I say it's like meaty and powerful, it really is. It really enables you to clear stuff. And it's fast as well. You don't have to redo stuff. You just, once it's gone, it's literally you clear it out of the way, you move on to the next thing and keep going until you have inner peace, which sounds really cheesy, but that kind of is where you get to in the end.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we move on to the next book, which isn't by you? We'll come back to your other book right at the end.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, the next book is The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Well, this is a new one that's just come out, and I've just been demolishing it. Well,
Oh,
devouring it, probably a better word,
yeah.
because I'm in the middle of launching a new business and we want to scale rapidly. So I've been sort of really taking on board everything that he's been saying. And it's really helped me to crystallize some of my thoughts. It's uncovered new ideas, new ways to monetize, new ways of approaching what we're doing. And because we're literally at the beginning of that journey, it's really helped me to think about the kind of foundations I need to get in place and the kind of goals and visions and all of that to set the tone from the outset. And that's it's just been, when I think about what I've learned, I did it, did the audio book rather than the reading book, and just listened to it on a few dog walks last weekend, and it's like, oh, like my mind was just going off, like, oh my god, right, I'm going to use that, I'm going to use that. It was just really inspiring and practical, and yeah, I've literally used it, and already it's come in so useful. So yeah, that's why that's on the list.
Okay. And any particular things that you really like think, oh, that's the number one thing I think of when I've been
Yeah,
reading
the
this
big
book?
takeaway, I think, for me has been the idea when he talks about scaling. Obviously, when you're looking to scale a business and make your business bigger, it's we were always, we set goals, we have visions, objectives, all of those kind of things when you're going into business. And so it's this idea that you can set an impossible goal and what that does to your thinking. So, you might say, well, I want to launch my business and have, a six-figure business
Yeah.
in a year or something like that. And then you go, well, no, instead of like 100K, let's aim for 100 million. And you're like, well, that's just ridiculous. You're like, well, am I going to do 100 million in a year? But if you just sit with that, what would that do to your thinking? What would that mean in terms of eliminating some of the noise and some of the
Yeah.
stuff that you're wasting your time on that are not going to help you get to 100 million? So it really helps to cut out some of the stuff that's distracting and focus on actually where you want to go. Now, who knows whether you get to 100 million or not? And that's not really the point. The point is that you're going to get a lot further if you use that as your focus than if you aim for the six-figure business. So doing that intellectual exercise has been phenomenal for me to go through that. And it's like, wow, okay, well, I'm not going to do that then. We're going to do this. And so, yeah, that's been really helpful for me. The idea of these impossible goals, and then the other thing he says is like the using time as a lever. What if you say, "Well, I'm going to do 100 million in 6 years"? Well, what about if you said in a year? How would that change
Mhm.
things? They're like, "What, in a year? Well, that's crazy." Again, the use of time to kind of really inspire you to think differently around setting goals and what that means in terms of implementing stuff and delivering them. So yeah, a really good book to really get you to think differently. And I'm enormously grateful for having read it already. And I've only owned it like about a week and a half.
Oh, okay. Right. Should we go on to the next book?
Yeah, sure.
Which is 100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy, who's quite
Well, I know he
famous.
gets a lot of he's getting a lot of press right now,
Yeah.
isn't he? Probably because he's so prolific in terms of content, but also what an incredible business person and what he's achieved. So his book, the big idea in this book, which I really love, is the idea of coming up with an offer so silly that people feel ridiculous,
Hmm.
so good that people feel silly saying no to. And again, that idea just really, really got me thinking in lots of different ways in terms of the way that I've approached what my offers are in my business. And so it really then obviously on the back of that, excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. On the back of that, he brought out some other books, and one of the other ones is on the list as well. That when you put all of this stuff together, is I'm approaching my business and revisiting my other business, my head trash business, by taking on board a lot of the things that he's saying, and just making little tweaks to offers here, introducing new ones there, just kind of moving things around a bit, and knowing that I'm doing that in a way that I've got confidence in doing that because he's just making it so easy to understand and making it so easy to implement that, and I did business at university, so well, I should know this stuff, but he's really brought a fresh perspective into the business world, especially around, especially using, a lot of people are so savvy these days in terms of all the sales tricks, all the marketing
Yeah.
tricks. So things have changed a lot in terms of the way that we interact with buying and our consumer behavior. And so, he really is bringing out stuff that's working right here and now. So I really appreciate what he's doing. And he's so generous with his content, like I've joined the school platform recently, and he's just got all his videos up there. I mean, he gives it all away for free. It's incredible. But he's got the receipts to show it. He's not making this stuff up. He's seriously like the next book in the other book that I've got covered. It's called 100 Million Money Models, and the book launch itself generated 100 million. So
Yeah.
he really
Well,
gives more.
should we go on to that now then?
Yeah, let's go on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100 Million Money Models by Alex Hormozy. So
I know, and I'm like, a lot of people showed up for that
Yeah.
webinar, I didn't actually show it for. I watched a little bit of it on YouTube the next day, but it was enough. I think I watched about an hour and a half of it because it was 7 hours long, and I don't have that kind of, not really up for that kind of YouTube
Yeah,
video.
yeah.
But yeah, even in the hour and a half I watched, I was like, there's so much to learn just watching that. And so I was like, right, yeah, I've got to get the book. And the book has just been, again, phenomenal and helped me to just tweak things, move things around, just update things. And the way that the offers one did, this really just took it to the next level. So it's really exciting to do that and think and have the confidence to be able to go, right, okay, this is probably going to work, because he says so. So yeah, those two books have been really, really significant for me in the last 12 months, I'd say.
So have you got £100 million offer now? Like,
No, not yet.
you can totally remove all the head trash from somebody's head.
Yeah, not yet, but maybe in a couple of months, right? Like that's the impossible goal.
Well,
but hey,
I mean, the funny thing is that it's one of these situations, like, if you're a billionaire and you've got some severe anxiety problem, would 100 million, like,
exactly. I mean, if they want to
cure
get rid of
this
their anxiety,
long-term? Yeah, like,
exactly. Because if they want to get rid of their anxiety in like a month,
yeah.
then that's what I do.
It's a shame you've written a book about it.
The thing is, if you read the book,
Yeah,
you're not as good as me at doing this
yeah,
stuff, right? So people, and this is where people find that they end up wanting to work with me, because they try, and some people are able to get it all done, but others
yeah,
are like, oh, and their anxiety is actually getting in the way of them being able to like get stuff done, right? Because anxiety does that to you. So I do get people saying that I need to turn this around. Like, I had a
yeah,
guy that was, big exec guy who's like having burnout, and he needed to be on the game, at work, and he thought he might lose his job, and he had big projects on, and he didn't have 6 months to a year to figure this out. He's like, I need this turning around right now. So in 3 weeks, we turned that thing around really quickly. So not, obviously that took a lot of intense work, and not everyone has the capacity or the budget to be able to do that kind of work. But if you need it, it's there, right?
yeah. Right. Shall we go on to the next book?
Yeah.
Which is How to Heal Your Metabolism by Kate Deering. Or
Yes.
Deering.
Now this is I'm going through the later, like, shifting into middle age. I know you can't
Yeah.
tell. But
Obviously not. Yeah.
and so things are changing, the way that my body's changing as I'm getting older. And I really wanted to find a way of, okay, the rules have changed, things have changed. What do I need to do? How have the rules changed? And so I decided that metabolic health was my new North Star in terms of, trying to be healthy and wanting to stay on form. And this book was one of the books I ended up reading, and it uses a lot of the work of Dr. Ray Peat, who sadly has passed away, but did a load of research. He was a fantastic researcher and professor, but his published works, there's very slim. There's lots of papers out there, and also his written work is very difficult to digest. He's an academic. So Kate Deering presents it in very easy to understand. She's written it really well, and she's using all his, she does all his principles and uses his work. So that was a really insightful book for me, and helped me to make a few key pivots for me, so that I can maintain maintain high levels of energy at a time in life where a lot of women struggle with things like brain fog and low levels of energy. To be able to maintain that, especially as I'm launching a new business, I need all the energy I can get. And so, metabolic health felt like the way to go with that. And that book really helped me to kind of understand some key principles that I've adopted, and it's been really helpful for me.
So you feel it's worked then, in terms of?
Well, I don't know if it's worked, because I think it's an ongoing.
Yeah.
The thing with hormones in women going through perimenopause is it's like wizardry. Oh, well, that seems to work, but what the hell's going on over here? So some things are working, but there's still a lot of mystery going on. So I'm still on that learning journey.
Well, I mean, it's bad enough in men, hormones and eating and the rest of it. So God knows what it's like in women. So. Okay, shall we go on to the next book?
Yeah, sure.
Which is Power versus Force by David Hawkins, PhD.
Yeah, no, this is a really, it's a really well-known book, and he's got loads and loads of books out. So he was a researcher in the field of consciousness, and so this book really was a massive pivot for me. So when I wrote my Clear Your Head Trash book, one of the things I described in that book was the journey that I observed people going through as they healed using head trash clearance. And because head trash clearance works really quickly, I was able to observe the healing journey or the change very, very quickly. So I could see that, oh, well, they come back a session like a week later, 2 weeks later. I'm like, wow, you look different. You're saying different things. You've got new language. Like, what's going on? And so, because the speed of change was so significant. And so I was able to observe all of this. So I started mapping what I called in the book the head trash clearance journeys. I witnessed people going along and kind of, progressing, if you like. And I didn't really pay much attention to what I'd written back then. I just thought it was just, well, that's the head trash clearance journey. And then I discovered power versus force. And I was like, holy moly, hang on a minute. He describes a tool that he developed called the map of consciousness in the power versus force. And he describes how people shift and move up the map of consciousness. I was like, oh my God, that's my head trash clearance journey. And so to read that book and see all the research that he's done, all the work he's done around how people shift their levels of consciousness, raise their level of consciousness through inner work, to see it almost validated what I'd seen in the work that I'd been doing. And so it really enabled me to double down and revisit that work that I'd done. And all of that has now become my second company. So which is the ladder of growth. So that the head trash clearance journey has now evolved significantly into a tool to help people to measure, track, and manage their personal and professional growth. And it's all rooted in the ideas in both Dr. David R. Hawkins's work, but also significantly the book that I wrote like over a decade ago, as I was beginning to observe these kind of shifts in people. So this power versus force book is one that will always be on my shelf because it's fantastic, and I recommend anybody who's interested in personal growth and healing to read that because it really is fascinating. I mean, unfortunately, his writing is a bit difficult. It's like eating raw broccoli. It's good for you, but it's just quite unpleasant. It's not easy. So, like Dr. Ray Pugh I mentioned before. So, that's the only challenge with his books is the style of writing. And I think also writing's changed, hasn't it? I mean, our language is the way that we write, the language that you find in books is slightly different. So it's from a different time, really. Not that long ago, but I think that the last 30 years we've changed as the way that we communicate significantly that affects books and reading. But such a good book.
Yeah. Okay, shall we go into the next book, which is Autobiography of a Yogi, and don't ask me to pronounce these.
Yogananda.
Paramahansa Yogananda.
This is one of those spiritual classics.
Yeah.
Really. And I think it's one of the I think Steve Jobs said he read it every year or something like that. It's one of those books you kind of want to revisit. I've not really revisited it since I did read it, but when I did read it, I kept having to put it down like every other page or so because it was just blowing my mind the whole time. It was, I was on holiday at the time and I just kept putting it down on the beach and going, oh my God, mind blown, mind blown. And it really helped to really expand, open the doors of perception, if you like, and go, oh, okay, this is what's going on. There's all of this stuff that's available there. So it was one of those milestone books for me that really helped to, it's just always there. I keep looking at it, keep thinking, I must go back and read that again, but not done it, have I?
Yeah. So what would you say the crux of the book is then? Is it to do with meditation, or is it kind of just about his life? What?
A bit of both, really, because he brought meditation. He made it mainstream, brought it to the States. So he talks about that, but he also talks about his journey, and some of it is quite unbelievable in terms of some of the things that he talks about and shares, like the creation of things out of nothing, out of thin air. You just think, what? And yet I've met people that have had those experiences personally and said, I've been in a room where that's happened. And so it's kind of, it's not complete. I don't know. I've just heard it. Yeah. I trust those people. They wouldn't be, BSing me and all of that. So it's really a book for me that demonstrates, when you, and especially as I now work with energy, and the head trash clearance method is essentially we're clearing out toxic emotional energy. It really is a book that speaks to what you're capable of once you do refine your energy and make it potent, and what you are capable of as a human. And so many of us don't have access to that, or don't have that capability, because our energy is so gunky and heavy that we can't do anything with it. Whereas when you clean up your energy, you can start really doing stuff and creating. You become the creator being. And so it's a book that kind of shows you what's possible to help you to go, it's like setting a 100 million money goal. You're like, okay, well, now I'm looking up here, I might actually get a little bit higher. except in spiritual terms, if you like, you know.
Yeah, well, they say if you aim for the stars, you just might hit the moon, sort of thing, isn't
Yeah, or a
it?
rain cloud if you're indeed scared.
Right, on to the next book, which is The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight by Tom Hartman.
Yeah,
So,
this was a book that really, again, blew my mind, and I will always remember it, and I always want to keep going back to reading
yeah,
this. But the idea, it's a really simple idea at the core of the book, which is that everything we're eating today, everything that's feeding us today, is
yeah,
essentially sunlight that's been converted into plants, trees, even
yeah,
the oil, everything, and we're literally just consuming sunlight, and at some point that's going to run out. Or is it? You know, because the sun's still shining, it's still
yeah.
producing the thing. And so it really helped me again to pivot, because back in those days I was all about, well, you know, you need to eat to survive kind of
Mm,
person. And I've since learned that that's not the case. That, you know, I've met a breatharian who's not eaten in like 4 years, and people that have done ridiculous water fasts. And so this idea of us needing food that we put in our mouth as our source of energy is something that can be challenged. It needs to be challenged. That's just how we think it is. And this book kind of helps you to understand and see that, even though the idea of me going without food is never going to
yeah,
happen. It's a lovely idea, right? And you know, so yeah, it's a really kind of mind expanding book as well. I really appreciated it for that.
okay. So, you're going to be setting outside soon to get the light into
Yeah,
your
well,
evening snack.
this is why I moved to the south of France and get more sun here.
Okay, right. Let's go on to the next one. The Biology of Belief by Bruce H. Lipton, PhD.
And this is quite a famous one, I think, and it
Yeah,
really broke him out as a, you know, into the stratosphere as an author. And again, it was one of those books that just blew my mind at the time. So it just introduced so many new ideas that really just set my thinking on a new trajectory. And then introducing the field of epigenetics, which is just
yeah,
such a crucial, important, you know, now we understand this a lot more. And I use all of this in the work that I do today. It's informed all of my work. And I, you know, as I develop the healing method, the head trash clearance method, I've continued to evolve it throughout the last decade. And more recently, I've been really developing ways of healing trauma very, very quickly. And you know, all of those ideas that he's presented in that book have all led to, have contributed and played a part in the work that I do today and the way that I heal. And so, you know, having it all mapped out and explained so clearly was really, you know, I didn't realize when I read it when it first came out how it would inform me and inform my work, but it really has when I think about, you know, looking back and what I'm doing today and how that kind of ties back to what this book was sharing at the time. It really was quite influential in terms of the work I'm doing today. So I'm hugely grateful to Bruce Lipton, and he's such a lovely person. Like every time we see him, he's just like such a gentle. He's like a
oh,
teddy bear
okay.
kind of person. He's just so lovely.
So, what would you say is the number one thing that you got from the book then?
Well, the idea that your thoughts do have an impact on
Yeah,
your genetics. That your thoughts do have an impact on what's going on in your physiology. And at the time, that seemed like such a bonkers idea. And yet, I think a lot of us, certainly
yeah,
in the world of who use this kind of work, familiar with it and kind of accept it happily now. And there are probably some people that, you know, that still don't know about this and might go, "Oh, that sounds crazy." But it's, you know, and one example to kind of really to push this home is, you know, if I was to sort of say to you, right, just close your eyes and just imagine that you've just cut a lemon and now just put it in your mouth and just
yeah,
start really hard on it. Your whole body's gonna go, oh, and you probably start salivating, right?
yeah,
Well, there you go. That's how your
yeah,
thoughts affect your physiology. So it's dead, you know, it's really obvious. You think about how anxiety affects people and how people feel tense around those things. So we know this stuff, but to really drill that home in the sense of biology and what that does in terms of conditions that you might experience, you know, whether you cancer and all of these kind of things,
yeah.
is really powerful work. So well worth it if you're interested in, yeah, the healing journey and better understanding what you can do to heal and to be healthier in not just mind but body too.
Okay, let's go on to the next book, which is Molecules of Emotion by
Yeah, I mean,
Candace
this is
Pert.
tied in
Yeah,
to a little, very connected, and she recently passed away. And but this is another kind of pivotal book, which is, you know, really focusing more on the emotional part of this and how your emotions do show up in the body in a very real way. It's not just these things, we feel it. There is a real impact going on. And I know that. Like, yeah, I see it all the time in the work that I do when people are releasing the fear or anxiety as
Yeah.
part of the work we do, the physical reactions that happen, the releasing process that I witness is, I see it all the time. But when I read this book, I hadn't witnessed it to the level that I had today. So it's, and again, she's backing everything up with science. She's a science person. So, it's really good book for those that are maybe new to this kind of these ideas and want to understand the science, because there's a lot of people that still, if science doesn't say it's okay, then it's not okay. So these two books really helped move the needle for those that need to see the science to really accept some of these ideas, and this is one of them.
Okay. I think the next book is your one, but we'll find
Is
out.
it?
Yes, Fearless Birthing by
Oh, well, that's
Alexia
this one
Leachman.
here.
Yeah.
This is my first book,
Yeah.
and it's a bit of a tome. And so when I used head trash clearance to get rid of my fears for my,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I'd done anything of worth. I didn't realize, one, that I had a condition called tocophobia. I didn't know that when I was going through it and when I healed it. And so I didn't realize that I'd achieved anything significant by getting rid of it in 2 months during my pregnancy. And so but also I was like, well, when baby number 2 came along, I was like, well, are the fears gonna come back? Like,
Mm,
what's gonna happen, And so when baby number 2 rolled around and I was pregnant, no, they didn't come back. The fears were gone. But I had new fears this time because, life moves
yeah.
on and I was an older mum and all of that. So, yeah, so I cleared them all again. And then word got out that what I'd been doing, and I started getting emails from women I'd never heard of saying, "Oh, I've heard what you've been doing, going from fearful to fearless, like getting rid of your fears for pregnancy. Like, what are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, how did you do that? Like, can you tell me what you did?" And I'm breastfeeding a newborn, like she's 2
Yeah.
weeks old, and I'm getting these emails, and I'm like, "Oh, who are you? What?" So I start like sharing what I'm doing on email, and they're quite long emails because I had to kind of first talk through the unpacking bit of the head trash, what I talk about in the books,
Yeah.
and then the method, and I'm still kind of figuring all those things out, and it came to a point where I got another email and another email. It's like, if I get another email, I'm going to write a bloody book, and here we are.
Yeah.
And so when I decided to write the book, I wrote this. This has got 108,000 words, and I wrote it in 3 months with a tiny baby. I started writing it when she was 3 weeks old, and it was ready by the time before she was like, what, 4 months, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then I was like, "Well, Lex, what have you done?" Like, I was a business coach at the time,
Yeah.
and I was mainly a business coach to men, like, male owners of creative agencies specifically. I had quite a lot of those clients on. And I was like, "What are you doing? Like, writing a book on this? Like, this is gonna destroy your personal brand. This is ridiculous." So I thought, well, I'll start and as you write a book, then there's a lot of work between the writing of the
Yeah.
first draft and then publishing, right? Especially pre-AI. So you sort of there's a lot of and 108,000 words, right? So there's a lot of work there.
Mm,
So I thought I'll start sharing some of this on a podcast. So I launched a podcast. And I thought I'll just keep it on the QT. I'll just be really quiet, and it can be a little maternity project. And the guys they never have to know. These guys I'm working for, they don't need to know my clients. And that's why I did. I launched a podcast called the Fear Free Childbirth Podcast, and it went absolutely insane from day one, pretty much. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And so I was kind of confronted with the option of like, well, the choice, like you can't keep doing
yeah.
this podcast and your head trash podcast. Someone's got to give. And so many women were like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. It's like I'd hit a nerve. And there were so many other women that were also experiencing fear around
Yeah.
birth that hadn't really had anybody speak to them before. And so I parked all of my head trash work and then doubled down and went all in the birth space. And obviously, this book had to get published at some point. So this book was the birth of a whole new field of work that I did for about 8 years. And I'm still doing it, but I'm pulling back a little bit more as I go
Yeah.
back to the fresh stuff and launch my new business. But this was the beginning of all of it. And once I published that, a lot of my clients came out the woodwork and they went, well, are you not going to do a book for us then? Like, we don't want to read all that pregnancy stuff. So that's why I had to do the head trash
Oh,
one
yeah.
and strip out all the pregnancy stuff, and then the head trash one, which is why that they're so different in their thickness. Is that this is the general one, and then this is the birth pregnancy one. So that's how they all came about.
Right. So that's the end of the formal interview. And I was trying to remember. I always ask people 2 questions at the end. I was like, "What were those questions?" And I've suddenly remembered. If you had to recommend one of those books that you've talked about to somebody, what would be the little flowchart in your mind? What questions would you ask them to work out what book you should recommend to a person?
I guess what they're trying to like what journey they're on,
Yeah,
because they might not be a business owner, in which case they don't really care about the businessy books, right?
yeah,
But also they might not everybody's up for the personal development journey either.
yeah,
So, a lot of the books are around personal growth because that's where my work and what I'm interested in and my passion. And so, I think I'd eliminate, okay, so you're not in business, right? Okay, you're not really interested in personal development, but maybe you want to lose a bit of weight, or maybe you're interested
yeah,
in health, but maybe I'd send them to the metabolism book. But if there was some yeses before then I kind of probably lead them to 100 million offers first because I really enjoyed that one. And then, yeah. And then obviously my book, if they're struggling with mental health and anxiety and stress, I mean, let's be honest, who's not got stress,
yeah,
right? I mean, I think that would be the one book that I'd be putting out there for
yeah.
everybody, because everybody can do it. As long as you can read and you've got 20 minutes, you can clear some head trash and then it's gone, right? And so then it's just about committing to doing that again and again and again until you've kind of worked through everything that's in your head.
I
I
think
think.
probably your head trash book is probably like if you were a generic group of people and it was in like a conference goodie bag, it'd probably be the most useful to most people,
Oh yeah,
I suppose.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's really handy, I wrote it, but it's super handy, and it's like me talking to you.
Yeah,
A lot of people said, "Oh my god, it's just like having you next to me, like you're like like my best friend, just calling out my BS and just saying it like it is." Because I don't pull any punches. It's yeah, you got to clear your stuff, and you don't want to hide and pretend you don't have any. So the
yeah,
book is can not be provocative, but it's helping you to like uncover what's going on for you. So and there's, it's funny because I asked my dad to help me edit it. And he was reading it and he's like, well, I don't think I've got any head trash. And I was like, are you having a laugh? Like,
yeah,
what? So, yeah, I think in the book, I say, if you think you've got no head trash, you're either, like you completely delulu about the fact what your state your mental health is in, or your head, not your mental health, but the state of, what's going on in your head.
yeah,
Or you're like Yogananda, who's so like an elite spiritual being that you literally don't have any head trash. So unless you're the Dalai Lama, then the chances are you're going to get a lot of value out of the book.
yeah.
I would say,
This
yeah.
is where you say your dad is the Dalai Lama.
No, it's not.
The other question I ask people at the end of
Yeah.
every show is, what is the next book you're intended to
Oh
write,
well,
if
I've got 2
anything?
books I'm working on at the
Ooh,
moment.
ooh,
Ooh, I know. So I had a hard word with myself early last year, like because I found that a lot of women were coming to me, women with tocophobia come to me, and then one of them said, when she started working with me, I said, "Why do you want to work with me?" She went, "You're the world expert in tocophobia." I was like, "Oh, am I?"
yeah,
Okay. And I was like, "Well, what would a world expert on tocophobia do?" They'd write a book, right? They
yeah,
would write the book. So I did, but it's not published. It's kind of ready. And I ended up writing a white paper on the back of that. And the white paper enabled me to really go a lot deeper in my thinking. And so now I need to update the book with some of the ideas in the white paper, and then it's ready to go. So there is a book on tocophobia coming, and it's about reproductive anxiety disorder, which is what I think tocophobia should be referred to as. And then the other book I've got is really building on my work around the head trash clearance journey and what the personal development journey looks like, the growth journey, if you like. And so that's what the new business is about. So I was going to pull the trigger on my other book, and then a business came out of all of that work. Having written the book, I was like, there's more here than a book.
yeah,
And so having now, I've got some co-founders. We're literally in the first month. We started the book of the company officially like 24 days ago, right? We haven't even set up the business bank account. We've already been invited to investor meetings. It's going like so crazy fast. But I decided I need to put a hold on the book and make sure that the book is aligned with what we're doing and that I'm,
yeah,
not confusing people. So yeah, I've got 2 books that I thought they were ready to go, but they just need some tweaks now before they actually get published. So the minute I can get around to doing that, then they'll be coming out. So is that going to be a 2025 thing? Not sure yet, because
yeah.
it's point.
We're running out of 2025, I think.
We
So.
are, aren't we? Right, let's do this.
Well, the other thing I need to ask you about, because I have appeared on your podcast talking about AI,
Yeah.
and you've been getting very into AI. So
Yes.
where does this, you sound like you're similar to me with lots of these where does AI fit into the big scale of things? Are you going to write a book about AI, or what do you,
I don't think I'll write a book about AI, but I did use AI to write my books, the
Yeah.
2 ones that I've done. And so I know there's a lot of controversy
Yeah.
around AI and publishing, but the way that I've used it is that I used AI to help me to structure my thinking at the beginning and think about what the book structure needed to be. Because I know that when I wrote my Fearless Birthing book, and having written all those words,
Yeah.
then I was like just moving stuff around. And then every time I moved it, I needed to rewrite it. And it was that kind of figuring out the structure that just took me so much time. And if I nailed the structure at the outset, then I would have saved a lot of time. But it was my first book. I didn't know what I was doing. So I've used ChatGPT to help me map out what my, so I want to say this and I want to say this and like what's the order that this, well, how do I layer this? How do I work through this? So that was really helpful for me. And then the other bit that I found really helpful is that, like, I love talking, probably quite obvious to those watching. I have lots of podcasts, so duh. But I also walk my dog every day for an hour in the morning. And so what I find that I get really inspired when I'm on my dog walk. So what I asked ChatGPT to do was to go through each chapter and give me talking points, like bullet points. And so then when I was out on my dog walk, I just record into my phone, like the chapter, or okay, right, I'm going to mention this. And then I just go off on one. And so obviously when you're rambling around, literally rambling and speaking, it might be slightly, all over the place or not. But then I'd take that transcript and then get AI to tidy it, but not lose the tone. It's still taking what I had given it, just put it in just tidied it up basically. And so that's how I've used AI to do both of those books. And that saved me. I mean, I wrote the second, like the Ladder of Growth book, I wrote that in 48 hours, which is insane. Because I just recorded it over 2 dog walks. And then by the time I got back to my desk, all the transcripts that I just put it through to get it tidied up. It was already trained in my tone from my previous 2 books, so it knew how I write. And then now I'm just tweaking stuff that's in my voice that I've come up with. And when I think back, like my mum, when one of the jobs that she had once in the 80s when I was a kid, was she would be the secretary. Like, she had a typewriter, an amazing typewriter that had a word processing screen on it, and one row where you could actually edit the letters before it hit the typewriter, which was amazing feature back then, because obviously once you press the key, you're like, oh, it's done. So, and one of the things she used to do was do this exact thing that this AI was doing for screenwriters and authors. They would like give her dictaphone tapes, and she'd be like turning it into the written stuff and for them to edit. And so, well, this stuff's always been going on. There's always been people doing that, whereas now there's an AI doing it. What I never do is go, oh, can you write me a blog on blah, 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 blah. I don't contribute. It always starts with my own ideas. And so, in terms of, and so all my content now always starts now with me recording it to my phone. And because I can speak faster than I can write, and I don't know, funny about like editing it and tweak, all of that. I don't need to refine my writing skills at this point in my life. I just need to get stuff done. So I love AI for that. And it's helped me loads with my business planning, developing the brand, like strategizing, figuring out, taking, so for example, 100 million money models from Alex Hormozy and going, right, I want to apply that model to my products and services because it's trained on that already. Help me figure this out. How do we solve this on my business? And that's just been brilliant because obviously I can't afford to work with Alex right now. I will in January once the 100 million roll in, but right now I don't have that. So AI has just been fantastic in that. And then, we could talk forever about AI, but there's some of the ways that it's really helped me to get a lot done in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I am amongst the converted in a way, though.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I haven't done this show in a while was I was going to update all the processes and get them all working. And I've only done about, I've lots of little flows, but A, I can't remember how to use them, and B, need to actually integrate them in with the actual process. But you're right, it's that streamlining of stuff, especially ironically, it's stuff where the humans involved.
Yeah.
that is a lot of the time it's dealing with humans because we're quite all over the place, and AI is quite good
Yeah.
at dealing with humans because it's a bit all over the place.
Yeah,
So
it is just another human. Actually, it's been trained by humans, and it's very human-like. It makes mistakes. It gets distracted. You got to rein it in. You got to
yeah,
tell it to stop going down the shiny
yeah,
thing, going after the shiny things. So if you're used to managing people and dealing with people in that way, then I think you can handle AI. If you're not used to managing people, then it
yeah,
can lead you, and that's when you head into hot water, I think. So you've got to know what you want, and you've got to get it back on track when it starts, going off on one, which
yeah,
it does a lot. Let's face it. Well, at least mine does. Maybe it's just because that's what I do sometimes. So, but it's helped me to get focused. I'm like, no, no, what are you doing? This is no,
yeah,
you're not paying attention. I feel like I'm talking to my
yeah.
kids sometimes. It's quite funny.
Yeah, I know. It's funny actually. I was
Yeah,
having
yeah,
this making this point. Like a lot of companies actually want automation, which has been around for years, like the Zapier and everything. But
yeah,
AI kind of helps with that in the human where it's talking to humans. But some people are
yeah.
like, "Oh, well, just put AI in there," and it's like, "Do you know what you're doing?" It's like
No, I
putting a
know.
big child in front charge of your company. So,
Yeah, no. Automations is my next frontier. I've got to get my head around N8 and all of that because that
NACN,
feels like that's
yeah.
going to be a big, big win. And we did start building an app using AI, and I was amazed at how quickly I got an app up and running.
Well, yeah,
And then
again, though, like app builders, I used to be a software developer many, many years ago. And there's always been these sort of app building and other building tools. And they're great, but the trouble is, as soon as something goes wrong, you're like, well, what do I do now?
yeah, right. I think you
Uh,
still need an app person
yeah,
to
you
do
need,
that because they have an understanding around tech and code or whatever, like that
yeah,
I just don't have. So I think it's brilliant for techies to be able to just do what they do much quicker. But do I need to be wading into tech territory? Probably not, actually.
yeah,
It's exciting to think I've got that capability if I want it, but I'm better suited to do what I'm meant to be doing. And I think having somebody on board that can do that, that gets it, can bring that to life quicker, is what I prefer to be doing. So yes, but it's I mean, AI is just so
yeah,
exciting. And it's also terrifying. Don't get me wrong, I'm
yeah.
not completely clueless about it. It's also really, Skynet's just around the corner, and let's just
Well,
not,
yeah.
let's not go there right now. Let's just
Well, I wrote a post on Medium. This shows how long ago it was, saying about I have no fear of hyper intelligent AI. Because if you think about it, like in human history, it's not the people like Stephen Hawkins or, well, possibly Bill Gates, but it's not like the really intelligent people who have done the worst things in human history. It's not like but I think a lot of intelligent people worry about a more intelligent AI just because they're not used to dealing with more intelligent people. Well, most
maybe.
of us, at least at some extent, have met some people who are more intelligent than us, and we don't think, oh, because they're more intelligent than us, then they're obviously going to trick and destroy the world. So that's kind of my thinking. I'm not sure that this kind of like hyper intelligent, we should be. Now, the worry is with stupid people get their hands on
Yeah,
intelligent AI. That's where generally most of the problems happen.
exactly. And the bit that it concerns me is a lot of people that are creating these platforms and this technology, like 22-year-old bros
Yeah.
in San Francisco. So like what that doesn't seem to be the right mindset to be creating this kind of stuff. They don't fully have the maturity or the emotional intelligence necessary to be responsible for such a task that's got such an impact on humanity. You've got like the lady that was at OpenAI, I can't remember what her name is, Mira or something, who set up another company that's already been valued at 1 billion or something.
Yeah.
And she's really trying to do AI in a I don't know, wholesome way, if that's possible. And that's something I celebrate, because I just worry that there are a lot of people doing the AI stuff that they're just too young. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you're not getting married at that age. She can't be the right person. It's that kind of thing. It's like you don't know you haven't figured a lot of stuff out at that age. Can you really be somebody that's now charting a new direction for humanity? Like feels that's where I'm conflicted. And I'm sure there'll be loads of people going, well, just because I'm young doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. Well, no, but also. So yeah, that's where I'm concerned about it. But
Yeah.
we'll see
Well,
how it plays out.
I'm not sure how much they obviously do have impact on it on the start. I mean, I think more of the issue is like the choice of material that they're fed on, which like
Yeah.
that can
On
be
the
an
internet's
issue.
a scary place.
Yeah. Anyway, on that totally
On that note.
unbook related topic, thank you so much for being the guest. And briefly, I mean, you have actually done quite a good job of plugging your books and stuff, but if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they've seen you and think, well, maybe I do need more than a book, and I've got £100 million I can give to Alicia to pay for her services. How do they get in touch with you, and how would they work with you?
They can come to headtrash.com, head-trash.com.
Yeah.
If it's a woman struggling with pregnancy anxiety or fear, it's fearless-birthing.com. So just the name of the books, basically. There is a Clio Head Trash website, which is, I had to buy that before the Head Trash domain was available. So I'm on 2 websites, which is such a drag. And then the new company, which is all about the tool, the ladder of growth tool, which helps you to measure, manage and track your personal and professional growth, is ladderofgrowth.io. But that's like, we only created it last week. And while I'm just sharing that, which is insane, AI created the website.
Oh, yeah.
So there's an AI assistant on my WordPress site, and it said, oh, do you want us to create the website? So I gave it a little paragraph, and then it just created a 10-page website in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, still need to tweak that, right? But I was amazed, right? So yeah, that's where you can find me, ladderofgrowth.io.
Is it got filtered in, I am Skynet, I will kill everybody?
Yeah.
Big
I'm here
word.
to take over the world.
Yeah.
Here's the launch code.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go and check that later.
Well, thank you so much for being the guest, and hopefully I'll be able to get this show onto YouTube and onto the podcast stream before Skynet takes over the world.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I've always liked you, AI. I've always liked you. So thanks so much for being the guest. Right.
All right then, Tim. Thank you.
Bye.